Thank you so much, Director Hastings. I am so proud to have our Colonel Brian Hastings is the director of the EMA in Alabama. He's only been on the job a few days, but he's already a pro. We welcome you, and we're just pleased to work with you. And I love your reorganization on the floor downstairs, and everybody can see the monitors. Very good. So I'm just pleased to be with all of you today. And I just thank you so much for the work that you're doing here at Emergency Management Operations Center. And I appreciate all the work that's been done prior to now to get us ready for what we were going to face ahead of us. To our friends in Florida who are currently feeling the impact of this Hurricane Irma, please know that you're in our thoughts and in our prayers as you bear the brunt of this terrible storm. I have spoken with Governor Scott and have pledged any of our available resources to help him and as he meets the needs of his people and ultimately recover from this devastating storm and this natural disaster. My team and I have been monitoring Hurricane Irma since it was a tropical storm and every day since for any possible impact here in Alabama. The early tracks of this storm predicted minimal interaction with our state. However, the most recent forecast suggests that part of the state will see tropical storm conditions. And because we've been preparing for this storm for some time, we've already have a plan and a strategy. We already have resources in place, and we are ready now that Hurricane Irma appears to be headed toward Alabama. In that vein, I previously issued a state of emergency which allowed personnel and resources to be available to respond in any weather events. This morning, under my direction, our state's Emergency Operations Center activated to a Level 1 status, and we've already opened 4 operation centers along the eastern portion of our state. Folks, this is an all-hands-on-deck event, and all of our state agencies are working together to ensure the safety of all Alabamians and of those who have recently sought refuge in our state. I've authorized the National Guard personnel to be deployed immediately for pre-storm preparation efforts and to respond once the storm reaches us. I have also authorized additional National Guardsmen and women to lend a helping hand to our friends in Florida as they respond to Hurricane Irma. The vast majority of Alabamians are only going to be impacted by thunderstorm-like wind and rain conditions with some possible flash flooding. But we do know that in the eastern portions of our state, they need to start preparing themselves for tropical storm conditions. We anticipate that the worst of the weather will arrive in our easternmost counties on Monday and enter others on Tuesday. We currently have tropical storm warnings for the eastern half of central Alabama from September 10 through September 13th, and there are those that are going to speak after me to give you more details in specifics on those areas. We do not expect a level of catastrophic damage that has been recently seen in Texas or in Florida. But folks, we must take this storm seriously. All Alabamians, but especially those in our easternmost counties, must make sure that they and their families are well prepared and heed any further directions from the state and local officials. We will be opening shelters and providing other necessary services to the affected areas in the coming hours and days. Resources are being pre-positioned, and will be deployed as needed arise according to the final trajectory of the storm. It's just unclear at this point which areas will be most effective and how, but we stand ready to respond. In a few moments, members of my team will come up and explain more details on exactly what we are doing and how we're making preparations to serve the people of Alabama. As a result of the events over the past few weeks, many of my fellow Alabamians understandably are concerned and anxious about what lies ahead. that is normal. But regardless of our fears, we can always remember the truth that Alabamians can depend on each other, that we place our faith in the Lord, and that we are willing to face head-on whatever may be thrown at us. Certainly I cannot say for sure what will happen. Storms like this one are very unpredictable. But I am proud to say that we are ready to respond to the people of Alabama. We are ready to protect the people of Alabama. And I also want to let you know that twice already today, once real early this morning, President Trump called me to assure us in Alabama that, in his words, he said, "We've got you covered." When I asked him what that really meant, he said, "My team's in place. We've got Alabama covered," meaning that he's got FEMA standing by looking at Alabama, and he's got members of his cabinet like Dr. Tom Price and others standing by to help us. As President Trump told me this morning, and then again a little later a while ago, he loves Alabama. He's grateful for the people in Alabama, and he wanted us to know that he's aware of our situation and stands ready to help. That is a good feeling from President Trump, and I'm proud to share it with you. To my fellow Alabamians, please be sure that you take this storm very seriously. Be sure that you are prepared and have a plan in place. Now is the time to stock your supplies that you need. Be prepared for whatever comes. I am so grateful that we have such a fine team in Alabama to guide all of us through this difficult period. Thank you. May God continue to bless each of you, your families, and the great state of Alabama. Now I want to ask John DeBlock with the National Weather Service in Birmingham to come and discuss the latest forecast on Hurricane Irma. John?
Thank you, Governor. Well, first and foremost, our thoughts and prayers are with the citizens and the first responders and our National Weather Service colleagues in Florida that are going through Hurricane Irma right now. Hurricane Irma remains a major hurricane, and as of noon Central Time was 50 miles west of Naples, Florida, with winds estimated at 130 miles per hour. Irma was moving north at about 9 miles per hour. On that course and trajectory, we're already seeing the outer rain bands of Irma reaching South Alabama, the extreme southeastern wiregrass portion of the state. Later this evening and tonight, before midnight, we're expecting to see tropical storm force winds enter the state with winds of 39 to 73 miles per hour possible. Right now, we have a tropical storm warning that is in effect for much of the southeastern portion of Alabama, roughly U.S. Highway 231 up to Montgomery, I-65, and to the east, south of Interstate 59. Those locations need to be prepared in the next 24 to 36 hours for tropical storm force winds of 30 to 45 miles per hour with gusts as high as 60 miles per hour. Locations along the ridgetops can expect to see perhaps enhanced winds above and beyond that. Now, with these types of wind speeds, we can expect to see trees falling, the possibility of power outages, and we're particularly concerned for structures being impacted by falling trees. If you're in a manufactured home, you might consider going to a more sturdy shelter for the next 24 to 36 hours until the winds decrease once again. We're also looking at some rainfall, well in excess of 1 to 3 inches, basically along and west of Interstate 65, with a maximum accumulation of about 4 inches on the Alabama-Georgia state line. We may see some localized flooding, and of course we ask everyone to turn around and not drown. Don't drive into areas that are flooded. Pay attention to any warnings that are issued and heed those warnings as soon as possible. Now, it's been since 2009 in Tropical Storm Claudette since we have had an active tropical storm warning in Alabama. It's been a while. We may be a little bit rusty. We've got these warnings out for your safety and your protection, and we ask you, as the governor said, to make your preparations today. Secure loose objects in your yard, trash cans, lawn furniture, trampolines especially, so that they don't become missiles that might damage a home or other property. Have your emergency supply kit available so that you can survive and be able to sustain yourself in case of a prolonged power outage. And with that, Governor, that's our forecast right now. We'll be continuing to track Hurricane Irma and pass any updated forecast information to the state as well, and keep you up to date as much as we can.
Thank you so much, John.
Thank you, ma'am.
John, thanks for the update. I do appreciate it. I'm Brian Hastings, the Director of Emergency Management for Alabama. As Governor Ivey stated, the State Emergency Operations Center is activated to Level 1 to prepare for the threat of the tropical storm force winds from Hurricane Irma, starting in the southeastern counties of the state and then flowing northeast from Monday through Tuesday. We have closely been tracking the path of Hurricane Irma for many days. As the track started to shift more westward and pose a greater threat to Alabama, we in turn have adjusted our staff, the resources, and our focus to ensure the greatest level of preparedness for the potential impacts of Irma. Our Level 1 activation requires an extensive state response, providing support to local governments where local resources and capability may be exceeded. This level of activation ensures the State Emergency Operations Center is fully staffed for 24-hour operations by the command staff and the following sections: operations, planning, logistics, and finance administration, and includes our emergency management coordinators from the Alabama agencies that have an emergency management role. Additionally, last week we coordinated with FEMA Region 4, and we have a FEMA liaison officer and an incident management assessment team in place to enhance coordination with our federal partners and assist in any recovery that we need. In addition to our State Emergency Operations Center Level 1 activation, 5 emergency management divisions in the eastern portion of the state are on alert for activation tomorrow morning. Those include Division B in the Coffee and Dow County areas, Division D in the Macon and Lee County areas, Division G in the Calhoun and Claiborne County areas, and Division F in the DeKalb and Jackson County area, and we just added Division E in the Walker and Winston area. Daily we conduct state coordination group calls. These calls are an avenue that allows all responding agencies the opportunity to coordinate and work together in response to Hurricane Irma. Any successful response operation requires a unified effort, and I am pleased at our team's effort to this point. It has truly been inspirational. At this time, I want to introduce Paul Smelly of the Alabama Department of Human Resources, and then he'll be followed by George Connor of the Alabama Department of Transportation.
Good afternoon. I'm Paul Smelly. I'm representing Commissioner Buckner for the Alabama Department of Human Resources. For the past few days, over 72 hours, we have coordinated with our mass care and sheltering partners, primarily the American Red Cross. There are currently 2 shelters open, Red Cross shelters. One is in Baldwin County at the Coliseum in Robertsdale. We have another shelter open at Alabama State University at the Acadome. Right now, those 2 shelters have not reached capacity. Our shelter support plan for this operation is to open up shelters in a tiered response. The Red Cross and the other organizations like the Salvation Army and other faith-based organizations are deployed to multiple resources throughout the South. So we're trying to conserve our resources and to open our shelters up in a tiered manner. We will start with larger shelters that can sustain significant winds, and we can also provide logistic supports to those locations. For anyone traveling through Alabama or our residents who need shelter information, we're encouraging them to call 211. Our partners at the Alabama Department of Transportation have put these up on message boards throughout the state, and we are also asking them to call 1-800-RED-CROSS. The Red Cross also has an app for anybody who has smartphone capability, and to date 211 has received and fielded over 700 calls since Friday. Also, we're coordinating with our other states, including Florida, to assist them in any sheltering missions that may come up and to coordinate our resources. Pending any of your questions, that's all I have, Governor.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
My name is George Connor. I'm Deputy Director for Operations at Alabama DOT. Would like to take this opportunity to say that as we go into this approaching storm, we would very much like for you to be aware and help us get the message out to use the following site for up-to-date traffic information. It's www.algotraffic.com. ALGOTRAFFIC.com. It is the most up-to-date place you can get information on traffic conditions, and we appreciate your help in disseminating that. Would echo the comments made by the governor and others that we ask that people listen to local officials, pay attention to road conditions and weather conditions. If you see standing water, do not drive through it. During high wind events, if you're on a high elevation bridge, please be careful, avoid travel if possible. Be alert for crews that are responding to emergencies, to felled trees, to making repairs, and for first responders. They'll be out and their attention is focused elsewhere. We ask for your help in keeping them safe. ALDOT is continuing to monitor traffic, responding to issues that arise. Currently, traffic volumes are moderate and are moving well. There are areas of local congestion, but traffic is moving. Areas and district offices are making preparation for readiness for the storm and for afterwards. And we are turning our attention to the next big challenge, which will be re-entry of the evacuees and managing that traffic when it happens. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, George. Thank you, Paul. At this time, I would like to open it up to the press corps for any questions, and then those questions that I can't answer, I'm going to have our experts here answer them for you. Are there any questions? Yes, sir.
People in central Alabama will remember Hurricane Opal that did a lot of damage when it came up through the state. Does this have potential to be similar to that, or do you know yet?
I am reluctant to say anything about the nature of the impact of a storm. We were fortunate that a few days ago, we thought that Irma was going to do an end around off the Keys of Florida and potentially be a Cat 4 with a direct impact on Mobile, Alabama. The scenario today is different than it was a few days ago, and it's going to change over the next 12 to 24 hours. What I can tell you, and I know that John will be able to give you more specifics, is that this is a wind event, and this will be a rain event up in the northeast, potentially with some few tornadoes as the low goes into the Tennessee River Valley, and it may just stall there. Alabamians, we have done this before. You know how to do this. We just need to make sure that we know what the weather forecast is and what to expect. Prepare now, and we are strong people, and you know what thunderstorms are like. You know what wind events are like, and there may be the potential for tornadoes in the upper third of Alabama. John, do you have anything to add to that?
Thank you, Director. To compare this to Opal, we're not going to see as large of a wind field and as strong as a wind field, but that doesn't necessarily mean the hazard is any less. We may have fewer trees that fall, but if that tree falls in the wrong spot, it's going to have just as much impact as anything else. So, as the Director was alluding to, we don't want to prepare for the last storm. We want to make sure we're prepared for this storm and the hazards that it presents with the wind speeds, approaching tropical storms, force winds, later tonight and then through the next day or so, and with those gusts as high as 60 miles per hour. That can bring trees down, and it just takes the tree falling in the wrong place at the wrong time to create a problem for you.
Thank you. Any other questions?
We've heard
Yes,
reports that hotels in South Alabama are full from Florida evacuees, and hotels in North Alabama are filling up. Are you concerned about people having to travel from, if they're trying to escape Irma from south to north, having to go further to find hotels for shelter?
It's concerning, but what I'd like to say is that we have been monitoring the hotels and motels filling up as they go north. The other thing that we were concerned about is as people drop and try to get out of Florida, and then they go to what they thought was a safe haven based on forecasts from 3 days ago, we need to make sure that they're sheltered or they are sheltered in shelters that can withstand tropical force winds that are being forecasted right now. So what you'll see is that we're in close coordination with ALEA, LDOT, the Department of Human Resources, the Red Cross, and we've been monitoring this flow of evacuees and trying to push them to the central and southwestern portions of Alabama, which will be less at risk for any of these wind and rain events. So there is a concern, but we're trying to message this, that we just want to keep on pushing them and have our people have the information so they can be proactive in finding shelter as we weather the fury of Irma. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
Hey, we're about out of time, so thank you. And Governor Ivey, thank you for your time here today, your leadership, and the motivational and inspiration to our team here at EMA and our partners in your agencies of the Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your good leadership.
You're very kind, ma'am. Thanks.
Thank y'all.
Okay.
Yeah, really.